Seated on the hot seat is Kevin Osido, Executive Director, County Governance Watch. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
As well as Irungu Nyakera, former PS Planning and Nairobi DCP Patron. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Now, we are in a country called Mauritania, a beautiful country, rich in resources. Talking about iron ore, gold, oil. They also have fish, and all that is what they use to push their economy. But it is also a country that is considered to be very poor in the continent. And one would ask why, if you have all these resources at your disposal. Perhaps it's a conversation that the country itself needs to have to see how it will take advantage of its resources to grow its economy. But from this beautiful country, we have a proverb. And the proverb is, patience is key to relief. Patience is key to relief. Nyakera, how would you interpret that?
When you're not patient, you worry too much. Yeah. But once you're patient and you know that something will happen at its own time and at the right time, you don't worry too much. Mm-hmm. You feel, you anticipate that things will ease up, that things will work out at the right time.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Osido.
Thank you. Patience gives you peace of mind. Mm-hmm. It gives you an opportunity to re-strategize. It gives you a chance to learn your lessons. And of course, patience gives you the opportunity to do it one more time in a better way.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, always you look at patience and that hope that I might be going through the mud right now, but at the end of the journey, I will get to sunshine, clean water, fragrance. You gotta smell nice and eat well,
Light at the end.
Light at the end of the tunnel,
yeah.
So yeah, patience is really, really important. But let's dive into it. It has been an interesting week. You look at what has been happening in the country, the push of having good leaders in office. And one Rigathi Gachagua says, Raila Odinga got it right in terms of his foot soldiers, the people that he sent in parliament. He has lawyers. People can craft laws. People can argue on a proper level, and just pushing for the electorate to understand the importance of having the right people in parliament who can legislate, oversight, and represent. An argument in terms of the leadership that you have today in these houses, whether they're doing that, but that it's important for the electorate to understand the importance of electing in the right people. Osido, does that statement hold ground? And if it does, how critical is it for the Mwananchi to get that?
Of course, that statement holds a lot of ground, and especially given what we saw happening upon the announcement of the demise of the former Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga, may God rest his soul in eternal peace, and particularly given the degree of self-mobilizing of people who came out to even do things which in the history of this country I wouldn't have imagined that would happen. For instance, breaking the critical infrastructure, very highly protected areas like the airport, up to the VVIP, installations. And these are people who are doing this because they are showing love. Something which I think that in the history of this country, I don't remember since I was born, a political figure that has driven people out of their, comfort zones, whether comfort is comfort or comfort is not comfort. But they came out in huge numbers from the moment the announcement was made, up to the moment when he was laid to rest. And even now, as we are seated here, there are still people who are trooping into Kangoka, Jaramogi and Opoda Farm just to, show their might. And this is not, of course, the brother, Buru Ginga, told us that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga was also a businessman.
Yeah.
But they are not doing it because of the business, acumen probably that he had and that industry that he built. They are doing it because of the politics. And so, therefore, the former deputy president, Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua, making reference to this kind of mobilization, to this kind of, support at such a time as now is really profound because he's a gentleman who has, extended interests to run for the high office. Of course, he has a case in court awaiting upon determination. He is also mobilizing. And I think he's also sending a message to other political leaders, and they're saying, what must we do to get people to mobilize around us and to be able to build such heavy political infrastructure and units like the ones that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga built. And these are people who came from across the country, They just sprouted and they said, we are doing this for Baba. We are doing this for Baba. And so I think that the political leadership of Kenya, as we head towards the elections and even beyond, really must begin to think through how to learn certain lessons from Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga. Of course, as I finish, we know that sometimes political patronage is mobilized financially, which therefore means that aspirants or candidates who want to run for office would want to generate a budget, put up a strategy, and part of that budget is normally what is called the logistics. And logistics, a lot of it is the money to mobilize and, show your political might, that when you show up in a rally, the ground is crowded, and you send serious tendons of messages to people like, we have the numbers, and so this is who we are. But I don't think that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga ever paid anyone to show up, and I participated very actively in some of his political mobilization processes from 2015, the BBI process, 2017, the election, 2022, the election, and a number of other grassroots processes, And I do not remember a meeting that we held and said we need to pay people, to get them into buses. Even those who are ferrying people were just self-volunteering, and they were saying, my car can accommodate 5 people. Where are they? Where do we pick them? Let's take them there. But if you look at how the current political leadership mobilize and show that might, I think part of the lessons that Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua is seeking to learn is how do we do it beyond, the financial constraints and even just the utter desire for people, resonating with our ideologies as political parties, with our interests as aspirants and candidates, and of course, therefore, being able to build a political empire, quote unquote, that resonates or resembles what Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga did.
Nyakera, it is a push to have the right people in office, those that can represent, legislate, and oversight. It is a push to have a proper leadership because, like the previous conversation you've had, it is clear that the power does not even lie with the executive. The power is in the National Assembly and the MCs. Why are we saying that? If you have a proper National Assembly, County Assembly, you have fixed the counties. If you have a proper National Assembly, you have fixed the executive, because then they would know that in this house, we have people of integrity, people who are doing things right. If you have a proper Senate, then they would be able to oversight the counties and ensure that devolution does work. Based off that, how critical is this message for us all, as Kenyans, to start thinking differently, in the sense that we have to vet each and every leader who comes to us, that we have to ask the tough questions and not the political class asking themselves those questions?
The problem is that we are asking, it's the Kenyans know the kind of leaders that we want. But they always know the kind of leaders they want way before the election and after the election. At the point of the election, they pick very different kind of leaders.
The leaders they don't want.
The leaders that will not serve them. The leaders that will not help them. And that's why when Rigathi Gachagua spoke about the kind of leadership that was associated with Raila, the late Raila, he spoke of people who actually have the qualities to do the things that you're talking about, which is to legislate, to oversight, and to implement. But the biggest problem is actually party primaries. Because you have the party primaries, there are people who feel that they own the political parties. And sometimes they don't just own them, they work towards owning them, because I know I'm running for an MP in this area. I know that the Popular Party will be Party X, and I work to be very central to the mechanics and how Party X functions within that area. I don't even need to play at the national level. But when it comes there, when the party leader is coming, I ensure I'm the one who's hosting him. When there's a party function, I ensure that I'm central.
I'm the logistics guy.
Yes, I'm the logistics guy. Yeah. When there's a harambe, I take my money and I take for the party leader. So people, so there are people who understand politics better than others. And at times we have a problem because the people who really want to be elected are not necessarily the ones who are mostly the ones who also don't have another option. Yeah, I think of I'm running a business, I'm employed, Standard Group, I have a job, I'm already doing something, and so I'll only go to the ground once a week, once a month, twice a month. But there's somebody else who's actually has already set his eyes on that seat, and they'll be there for the next 4 or 5 years. And people ignore their flaws. So when you what Rigathi was talking to, the people Rigathi was talking to are the professionals who know that they are qualified, but they do not have time to actually go to the grassroots to engage people. So these good people, the people who have the qualifications, come to the grassroots, to the ground, a week, a month, a year before the elections. When people already have associated with somebody else, and they come and say, I am better than the other person. But that person met these other people at their point of need. He came for their funeral, he came for their weddings, he came for the bridal showers for their children. So they already have a relationship for birthdays.
Which it raises a very pertinent question, because yes, there is that familiarity that one builds up towards the campaigning during the campaign season. But much of what you're mentioning is the tokenism that we are trying to run away from as a country. Just because somebody showed up in some social event, they've been around, and then they have a political aspiration, does not necessarily qualify them to match the job description that you want to give them, be it an MC, an MP, or a governor, and a president as well. So as a populace, at what point do we realize that just because you're my friend, just because you've been within my social circles or in our community helping us with other charitable causes, that does not qualify you unless you have the checklist that really matches your set skills?
You see, the checklist that you have in the Constitution is that you're Kenyan.
Correct.
You have you have the ID, and that you've attained certain minimum educational qualification. That's it. Everybody else falls in line. They are qualified. So the people that who are electing you realize that a lot of them also have not attained certain educational levels. So if somebody has not reached university, you cannot come to lecture them on how important a degree is, because themselves they're dropouts. And they might even start imagining that you're looking down on them, and for that reason they will actually elect the one who's least qualified to punish you.
So the civic education is wanting for the electorate to understand that when they come to the ballot,
there's need for that civic education, but also there's also need for ile ya kujituma. We tell the professionals exactly what Gashago was telling them, that we have to change this country, and leadership is not given to somebody who is in their house. You have to actually come out and say, I want to leave Kenya better than I found it. I have been educated by this society, by this community, and I will give myself to this community, in the service of this community.
I'm just listening to Bwana PS, and something that I see happening in the counties, for instance, because that's really where the core of our work is that Kenyans are beginning to realize that uongozi is not just the kiongozi. That leadership is not just the leader. But that leadership is the everyday things that you do. That I can be a very influential person in the community, but I don't have to be the governor to make a difference. And so citizens are beginning to organize around their areas of interest. So if they are lovers of, good water service delivery, they organize around water, and you will see them writing letters and engaging with the private sector and foundations and asking for dams to be built and for water to be, piped into people's, communities and houses, and that they're even pushing for healthcare to work. And in my view, pole pole, slowly by slowly, little by little, that is how I think we are also going to determine who becomes our MCA, who becomes our women rep, who even becomes our governor at that level. Because across the board, you can only have one person sitting in one position. And that how that person therefore is elected is something that I see people already beginning to think about. And I agree with Bwana Nyakera that the middle class really, which I think from political economy, some of the work that we do, is sometimes touted as the biggest problem that Kenya has.
Kenya has, yes.
But they are also beginning to get out of their comfort zones. And they are saying, as we move into Syokimau and Mutalia and Rongais and ETCs, the roads are bad.
Yes.
But we can't wait for somebody to come and make these roads. And so they're also organizing to really begin to push. And some weekends you are called to go and help people write petitions, for roads to be done. And these are people who are bank managers, they are in civil society, they are big media guys like Aseto here. And they're already beginning to realize that actually the leader is just but one among the drop that we are.
Yeah.
So the synergy lies in us organizing ourselves and coming together. And I think that those who are running for office, like in 2027, now need to begin to relate to this kind of self-organizing, community networks. Because even as we talk about performance for elected leaders and the vetting, these are the people who are going to begin to vet at the town halls. Even before IEBC and DCI and all those other agencies do their work, they are the ones who are going to ask them, can you come to the hall on this Saturday afternoon? Give us your credentials. The governor, you must have a degree. Who are your classmates? Hii degree imetoka wapi? And the moment they tell you you are fake, you have no business to go and even talk to the party leader and hope that your hand is going to be raised. Yeah.
Let's look at something that happened in the country. The Cabinet Secretary for Education yesterday just told the National Assembly that 1 billion shillings was paid to ghost students. That there are schools in this country that do exist with teachers but with no students, but that capitation was sent at a time when children were forced to go home early because capitation was not sent in time. Capitation was actually sent after children left schools. You couple that together with the lecturer strike that went for over a month, and the students as well have gone through it all. Parents having to pay for accommodation, food to just sustain their children in these schools. And when you look at the education sector in the country and other services, one asks the question, what are we doing? Not only to ourselves, but to the future. And why isn't the president cracking the whip and finally fixing the problem there is? Nyakera, are we playing politics so bad with critical institutions in the country that you're forgetting the core of what makes this country Kenya?
And it's not just the core of Kenya, but it's the core of the individual. Because education is actually the only thing that makes the children of the poor and the children of the rich to sit at one table. Is the ultimate equalizer. So I don't even think the president didn't need to fix it. It was working. He just needed to sustain it. You see, when we look at all the levels of education, from primary, secondary, university, they were working. They were not perfect, but they were working. HELB was working. But I pay school fees for certain people, a number of people in university, but for the last 1-2 years, they've just been paying. The school says pay and wait for help, and then the end of the term you're told, now finish the balance, otherwise you won't take the exam because help has still not released the funds. Yes, you can pay if you can afford, but how many can't afford? You go to primary school for the first time since Kibaki era, teachers are now chipping in, parents are now chipping in, and the minister was very clear, starting the next year, now they will start paying. It's no longer just chipping in, it's actually paying. Yeah, the day schools, the day secondary schools, we used to pay between 9,000 and 11,000. Yeah, and that was for food. Yeah, now it's not just for food. They'll also be paying about 19,000 because it adds onto the infrastructure for the schools. You are starting to pay school fees. Yeah, when we talk of the boarding schools now being at a minimum of 53,000, it's a lot more than people can afford. Yeah, so we've moved from education being a right to education being a privilege for the ones who can afford. If it's a privilege, it means that now we deny a huge percentage of Kenyans hope for the future. Yeah, these people will have no skills. If they don't have skills that we need for the future, because 80% of the jobs that will be there in 10 years have not even been identified yet, because it's new, it's evolving. Yeah, we have a new system. The CBE, the CBC, it's a new system, it's a good system. For me, I think if implemented right, it's actually a good system, because then it aligns people's skills with what they are taught. If you don't like, if you're not good at sciences, nobody will force you to do sciences. If you're good in arts, you'll be directed towards arts. But then you still have to go to that school. Yeah, there still have to be teachers. There have to be infrastructure. Those items have to be there. Yeah, so I think it's really unfortunate, because we have seen complete deprioritization of education, and we can no longer say that we do not have money. I always insist, we never have a revenue problem. We have a prioritization and a spending problem.
Now, Osido, when you look at from a governance perspective, because our education is anchored in our constitution, in our governance structure. A CES comes and tells the country, we have schools that we are shutting down because they don't have students. We have schools where we dispatch capitation, and those schools are ghost schools. And then you look at the transition level, because from 11 million people who are in primary, only about 5 go to secondary, and only 500,000 go to the universities. At what point will the CES, or at what point do we have institutional responsibility, where we may have instances of a CS being told, you are this incompetent based on your report, because you're supposed to head a docket for the country, a critical docket, because education is an equalizer, and the report you're giving is very wanting. But beyond the report, we never see repercussions that are actionable to bring transformation that we need. Where does the country seek refuge?
It's a very devastating story. In fact, it is extremely shocking. In certain parts of the world, the CS should have left office. Not because you are a few months into the office, or because you are not there when these ghost schools were being registered, but because you are the one who is actually, driving the car. But because this is Kenya, where corruption is normalized, it's a very sad state of affairs, where people talk about corruption as if it is water in a bottle we are drinking, whether clean or dirty, it doesn't matter as long as it is water. And so what, therefore, in my view, from a governance perspective, really begs the question is the institutions of governance. When you register a ghost school, what are you thinking? Who does registration for schools? And I say this from a point of some information that I have around registration of schools, how strenuous and difficult that process is. Even, hiring teachers by TSC. So when you send teachers to ghost schools where there are no learners, what really goes on into your mind? But because this is corruption, and maybe it is a scheme to siphon money, and the CS should have gone further and told us, so when these teachers are being paid, how much are they getting and what are they being paid for? And beyond that is also to look at certain institutions like KNBS, and PS has been PS for Economic Planning and National Development. The degree of work that goes into the economics of Kenya. Just even as we talk about capitation, because these are numbers, and those numbers are drawn from somewhere. As we talk about ghost schools, really, what is it that you are thinking? What is it that the DG of Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is even thinking where he is seated and listening, rather, or even watching the CS talking about ghost schools? What happens to our DCI? Because government security infrastructure is so deeply engraved up to the core in our villages, you know. If they wanted to get data of a ghost school somewhere, it's just a matter of a phone call and they have what they need. So the CS is taking Kenyans for a ride. I think that if it is information that he was given, he needs to hold accountable those who gave him that information. And Kamanja, you are asking, so what happens to the history? Of course, the history around to what point did the CS Ogamba realize that we have ghost schools?
Yes.
So the former CS needs to be held accountable.
Yes.
The former PS needs to be held accountable. The former CS, because we've had as many as several CSS and PSS, even directors of education. The education infrastructure of Kenya is so strong again that if you were to get your child from a school on a day when he or she is not expected out of school, look at the number of letters that you have to write. Yet this is your own child, you know. So how come we cannot be able to do things right? So I think that this is something that we should not just talk about it. Certain people and lovers of education, the civil society guys like ourselves, lovers of government, even the donors that put money in the education sector, need to ask very critical questions. And if the president has to crack the whip, I'm surprised he's been silent about critical issues like, you know, lecturers who are on strike.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the president speak. So I'm hoping that as he does the Nyota in Western, this is going to probably surprise him or shock him and actually, push him to open his mouth and make serious comments around some of the issues that Kenyans are talking about.
You know, we look at education and one would say what the country needs is elimu bora, not bora elimu.
Yeah.
You know, but you look at all the discourse that is happening, ghost schools, delayed capitation, lecturers on strike. You look at printing of textbooks that has been delayed. The curriculum itself has been delayed. Some schools CBE transitioning is happening. Do not have labs. Some schools you want to be a swimmer.
No equipment.
No swimming pool. And one asks, are we focused on the quality? Or are we just focused on, I am in government, part of the docket that I'm heading is education, and because the Constitution says every child in the country has the right to basic education, I will just give education. On matters of quality, mzazi, mtoto wako, mjipange. And if that's how we're looking at critical issues in the country. So you look at healthcare, you look at education, you look at security. If that is the mentality that you're having, perhaps it's a time that pause, rewind, and play again and get it right. Your tape, kama it's so red.
Yeah.
Let's cut that tape and join it with the parts that are working, you would say.
But you see, the problem is that we talked about the need to have leadership that legislates, implements, and oversights. The problem is that at the moment, this administration, all that rests to the executive. The executive legislates, oversights, and implements. And not just the executive. The president is the one who legislates, implements, and oversights. So when the minister comes there and speaks, and you're asking why is the president not speaking? The president is speaking. Yeah, the minister cannot make any statement that does not have the approval,
the backing
of the president. Yeah, when the dons for the university go for 49 days. Yeah, and you're asking, how can the president be quiet for 49 days? Yeah, and yet we are seeing him doing many other things in those 49 days. Yeah, it just means that it's not a priority for him, because if you know that you're going to seek a solution anyway, why wait for 49 days? Yeah, yet you can wait for 2 days or 3 days. So I think the biggest problem is actually political will. The lack of political will and the lack of leaders who can actually speak out. Yeah, leaders in the National Assembly, that's their role. They're supposed to be the ones speaking out, not us. Us, we're just informing, giving them content and material and to understand what the public is saying. But they're the ones who are supposed to be speaking out. They're elected to legislate and oversight. They're the ones who've allowed the executive to take over the running of the parliament, and meaning that they can't, they've been completely muzzled.
The question is, when you talk about parliament has been completely muzzled, I just don't get it. Because these are individuals with their heads, man, with their brains, and ought to think for themselves. Because by the time you're running to be a member of National Assembly, you know exactly what you ought to do. That house is independent. On paper, let's say it's independent. But one would hope that the leadership that we have understand critically what their role is, and they're able to work for the Mwananchi. Because Parliament exists because of the people of Kenya. 55 million people of us give legitimacy to that house that is Parliament, give legitimacy to that president. It is us. Members of Parliament, president, everybody enjoys delegated responsibility, as it would be. But by the time we hear that the president enjoys a supermajority, Parliament is muzzled, I reckon that house has allowed itself to be muzzled. It is not a question of the president has authority over them. Maybe it's because they have their own issues, the president, and the president can cover the belt. But that house, as it were, has allowed itself not to be independent, Osido.
Just so quick on that, because you see, the independence, I think, is a term, it's a phrase that we can use. But the reality is that the people in Parliament are there for this term, but they also want to be there next term. So you have to toe the party line. You cannot be, unless you are an independent candidate, you have to toe the party line. So if your party has already aligned with the president on a certain matter, you cannot come out with a different position. Look at from the speaker. How do you elect the speaker? You elect the speaker by the parties coming together. The ruling party came and said, this guy is our friend. He was in a Kenya Kwanza alliance like Nyakera, but so you want him to be the speaker. And so everybody told. So for him to be made speaker, it's very clear for him that he has to push the agenda of the executive. Then you have the leader of majority. The leader of majority push government business, and whoever is not towing the line, here is a budget. Ensure you sort them out, and then they do as government says. So the issue and then someone so the issue of independence does not arise.
I still ask the question. I still ask the question. With all that you've said, government business in the structure, right? So we have the majority pushing government business. We have the National Assembly Speaker, a party leader.
You have the House Business Committee.
And all that. But at the core of it all, do you leave your brain at home? That you say you have to toe the party line. Doesn't the Mwananchi matter? The person who voted for you, put you there to work for them. Don't they matter? Or
it's not about the brain, it's the stomach.
That's partly correct. And you see that we have given a lot of power to our legislative houses, and we have muzzled the space for the citizen to take back this power, so that the recall clause has failed to work. Article 1 of the Constitution no longer works, because actually it doesn't work, because it's been made so difficult, it's been made so hard for the citizen, and it's therefore an excuse for those who are in that house. Remember, it is the same legislators will have to legislate over the recall clause. And IEBC, I think some within the former term told us that the challenges of that particular clause. But moving forward, we have to push for a review of the recall clause, so that for people who would wish to look at their stomachs as opposed to the interests of the citizens, they can actually be recalled. And so as part of the reforms that we have to push for in this electoral cycle, beyond the campaign financing, The same people have refused to enact it, We also have to bring in the recall clause of our constitution so that citizens are given that opportunity to recoup back the sovereignty. That if it is not working for us, we can be able to recall you. That way, we are able to exercise checks and balances for those who exercise oversight, like our legislators. But I agree with you, Dennis, because when you're elected, and we know the campaigning processes and terminologies, the narratives in this country. Nitafanya, mukinipatia, nitahakikisha, no, tumetenda, nini.
Nasahau.
All these things, Ultimately, when we have gained that trust and confidence in you, why do you want to go and sell us out, honestly? Okay, there is a bill that is so bad and you think it is so bad. Why don't you come out and say, as Kevin Osido, member for Arieda, for example, I will not vote for this because of 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we see what the president can do. Whether he says, I will not take roads to your constituency, so be it. Whether he says, I will not give you 500 million for your monthly whatever, so be it. But the citizens will actually be able to underscore that Osido came up and told us precisely, because it's quite shocking and shameful that a house of honor, an august house like the National Assembly, sometimes we are told, they passed bills because they got 3,000 shillings. Of course, it's a lot of money to someone, but to you as an MP, honestly, for you to sell the soul of the country, I think those are not very progressive leadership principles. They go against our constitution and indeed even the principle of separation of powers. I think that governance institutions, particularly the presidency, should be able to allow the legislature to do their work. So use the infrastructure available, the institutions available, because already the House Business Committee has majority leaders, minority leaders. You have the Speaker's panel, you have the Speaker himself seated there. You are able to negotiate, without necessarily disenfranchising the highest interest of the populace. Yes.
You speak of separation of powers, and the autonomy of our institutions has overly been compromised. I think this is one of the parliaments that has been rendered as incompetent, by the right of their conduct. And even the president came out the other day to say these people, they have become rent seekers. So you begin to wonder if the president himself is aware of that. Is that a complaint against that which has not worked for him? And the bills that have worked for him against the will of the Kenyans, could he have practiced the same mechanism to influence? It begs for that question. Because sometimes what is good for the goose should be good for the gander. The other part I feel inclined to really question is that the political parties that get people into office, most of them are not ideological. They are more an embodiment of the party leader. Like we were talking about the late Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. He came out and he stood for something, the civic space. He has really fought for the democratic space that we're enjoying today. And he built a following. Hence, you are saying he had a lot of less to do in terms of facilitation, financing, and in terms of logistics. But the current crop of political parties that we are seeing emerging, because we must have an election in 2027, if not before. But we must go to the ballot, and the people must vote. We need political instruments, and one of those is the political parties. There are no resounding ideologies yet that the people are able to subscribe to, either as aspirants or the electorate, beyond changing the regime. Because if we did, then we would say perhaps, you got into office as an MP, you got into office as a governor, and these were the premises that we elected you on based on our party. We are Democrats, we are this, we are that. The bill that is on the floor of the parliament, whether the county or national, is not commensurate with what we as a party stand for. So go and vote no. You would have a backing of the people. We are not there yet, but is there hope for us as we approach 2027?
You have a party person here.
I think I would want to believe that change, when you have a regime that has completely disenfranchised Kenyans, that has completely deprioritized key issues for Kenyans, then changing that regime becomes the biggest agenda for any political party, or any political movement. When first, I'm very happy with what is happening now, because the middle class is getting unsettled. The middle class, which have first of all seen their pay slips being tampered with, and now when they hear the president talk about issues of electricity, and that we need to build more power stations, they see their pay slip is now targeted. They're seeing another levy, 0.5% electricity levy come into their pay. So then when the middle class are spending their Saturdays in the garage because their vehicles, the whole week they've been using bad roads, when they're
Rhino charge,
going to work, when the Saturdays is for water bowsers to come to your house to fill up the water tanks, then things are failing, and that's actually why we are seeing people resonate around. We want a new regime, we want new administration, and for us in the new in the opposition, we are not even coming out to say we'll do this and this and that. Yes, we know all those things that are supposed to have been done. We have the manifesto. Even we were in the Kenya Kwanza administration, we were in the government, we created the manifesto. But we can see that actually out of the about 260 promises that were made, only about 16 have been fulfilled. 3 years, going into 4 years of the election, 16 out of about 260. That tells you that change has to come.
It's good that we're talking about manifestos, promises, and all that. You want to be Nairobi governor. Let's just throw you into the deep end, right? And Nairobi today, the previous guest that we have say Nairobi is a filth. Wherever you go, it is a filth. It is not fit to be a capital city. I'm just quoting verbatim. That Nairobi is a sad place to be in. Spending your weekends in garage, right? You walk everywhere. Sewers have burst, garbage all the way to the road. There's a guest here. There's a listener here who's asking you a question on garbage collection and dealing with that problem. How do you deal with it? Because it seems to be a problem. If you go back to the first governor, Nairobi Kidero, up to now, it's still a problem. A comprehensive approach in dealing with this problem. How would you go about it?
We saw the president about 2-3 weeks ago talking about that Nairobi is a filthy city. And the sad part and the reality is that Nairobi is the seat of the national government.
He lives in Nairobi.
He lives in Nairobi. When he's holding delegates, he has delegates, they are coming to Nairobi. When anybody wants to tour Kenya, they start in Nairobi. So it means that it should be a priority, ensuring that we clean up our streets, we clean up our city. And it's not just the city, the streets. Go to the marketplaces. The business people in the market actually operating right in front of huge heaps. In Marikiti, there is a Mount Sakaja. It's a huge pile of trash. And it's an eyesore. The people working there have to see it, and the people coming there to buy there. You can imagine coming to buy your tomatoes, next to a Mount Sakaja. So the garbage issue, the person who almost attempted, it was Kidero back in the I believe around 2014. There was a proposal for a PPP, which had been fairly advanced with the Chinese government, and it was killed at a point where people could not agree on how much cut each one is getting.
Macho.
From there, during Sonko's administration, it was reawakened. I remember it was, and again, I remember there's a delegation that went to Dubai and did not agree. So essentially, we all know the solution, what the solution will be. I have been to Berlin, and it's one of the cities that I really like when I think about how the garbage issue is treated. And the garbage issue starts at the household levels. the estate, at the estate, because at that point you are able to have CBOs that are registered, that are able to actually segregate these wastes. There are bottles, there is cardboards, there is food waste and all that. And why, for me, I'd want to start at that level is because it creates opportunities. It creates jobs. And also because not everything needs to go to the dump sites at that point. There are many companies that do recycling of bottles, and they are willing and ready to pay for those bottles. And so we just have to have a proper system all the way from the household, in terms of how that garbage is collected. And if you look at the current administration, the reason why garbage is not being collected is because the people collecting garbage are not getting paid, and the people getting paid are the ones who are not collecting garbage. They are the people, they are protecting the governor's interest at State House. So he has to feel protected. So those people are paid the money that the other transporters should be paid. Then when you go to the dump site, garbage is wealth. Actually, that garbage can actually be converted to very many things, including power. And that is actually what, since it's something over 15 years has been anticipated, has been talked about, it's just about implementation. And PPP is the way to go.
Osido, County Governance Watch. Is this something that as a county can be achieved? Are these aspirations that we have in terms of having a cleaner Nairobi, a cleaner country, are these things that can be achieved? And if they can be, why are we not there yet?
Let me start from why we are not there yet. And I was hoping that, quote unquote, the clean PS would tell us that he would just crack the cartelic system. Because whether you do those organized community resident, it's being done. Like where I live, it is the people who live there who organize, and they will always bring you black paper bags or green paper bags, and they come, the boys come, they pick and they go. But how come that trash still finds its legs at the Mount Sakaja? It means that there is something that is not being done. So what we must do, in my view, is to deal with the cartels. The people that Nyakera says went to Dubai didn't agree. The people that messed up Governor Kidero, Governor Sonko, these people are known. Wanajuana, and even if you look at some of the lorries, they are written so and so, PO Box so and so. They even have phone numbers. These people are known. So why is it that we cannot deal with the cartels that mess up the solid waste management system? Nairobi County has a very good program on paper. The green, I think it's called the Green Nairobi Limited. Very robust, nicely designed, properly thought out. But you don't get anything good out of it with a heavy budget of almost 1.2 billion shillings, an annual budget on solid waste management out of what Nairobi gets, What I think, Dennis, is that the leadership has not probably thought through this properly from basically the value chain. That even from trash, you can create jobs.
Jobs, yes.
That from trash, you can create power. From trash, you can be able to get something meaningful out of it. And so I like the PPP aspect. A number of counties, while we were in Homa Bay for the devolution conference, we actually had a public-private partnership company that came all the way from Ghana to come and showcase what they are doing. And they said they've already identified about 6 counties, including Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, etc., that they are working with. And they were able to basically show things which I think Kenya can be able to do. So it is a leadership problem that I think people who suffer this kind of mess, like the citizens, therefore the voters, need to also put the leadership to task and ask them, how will you be able to deal with the solid waste management in Nairobi?
And I think that is a better place and a good place to end up in terms of finding solutions to what problems are there. Irungu Nyakera, former PS Planning and the Nairobi DCP, Patron, karibu sana, and asante sana for that. And Kevin Osido, Executive Director, County Governance Watch, just looking at how the week has been, as well as looking for solutions where problems do exist, conversations that must continue.
This is the Situation Room the only way to start your day.